number 10, we have the disappearing train in China. What on earth is going on at the Batao station? Legend has it that a ghost train passes up and down the tracks, picking up ghostly passengers and moving forwards through the station. Until March 2018, it was just a rumor, but then this CCTV footage was captured of a transparent, ghostly looking train moving along the tracks. It slows to a halt as if allowing passengers to embark and disembark, and then it starts up again. The footage was uploaded to YouTube by the Hidden Underbelly 2.0. It's been watched over 2.3 million times. Some critics say that the footage isn't legit, others say it looks like a retaping over an old CCTV tape. Some people said it looks like reflections in a window, while others are straight up going parallel universe. Coming in at number 9, we have the white sari ghost of Begungador Station. In the Indian hills sits Begungador Station. The station is laid empty and defunct from 1967 to 2009, reportedly because of the fate that met the former station master. The station employee reported that he saw a woman in a white sari dancing in the middle of the night. He thought her to be a ghost of a woman killed by a train. He told other people in the village about it, and a few days later he and his family were found dead. His replacement at the station also went missing just days into the job. With word filtering around the village, people started avoiding the station, eventually leading to its closure. Railway officials have always denied the ghost story, and the station has been reopened. However, trains stopped running after 5 PM. Now apparently this is so that no one ever comes across the sari-clad ghost. Coming into number 8, we have the San Antonio train track children. Legend has it that once upon a time in San Antonio, there was a horrifying crash between a train and a bus filled with children. According to the tales in the area, a school bus stalled on the train lines as the warning lights signaling the approach of the train lit up. The driver was unable to start the bus and drive off in time, and sadly, the two vehicles collided. Now reportedly, this killed all people on board. The legend, dating back to the 70s, goes that if a car halts on the same piece of track, the ghosts of the children will push the car forwards to safety. On top of that, many have reported seeing little imprints of tiny children's hands on their cars afterwards. Freakier still, the road where the ghosts are supposed to haunt is surrounded by a set of streets named after children such as Cindy Lou, Laura Lee and Bobby Allen. Could these be the bus crash victims? Now Snopes said that the movement of the vehicles at the crossing is down to a slight incline at the site. This allows cars in neutral to roll forward. And also the street names apparently are of the developers' grandchildren. However, with so many ghostly reports, the legends of the San Antonio train track children lives on. Coming into number 7, we have the 100-year-old missing train. In 1910, a freight train went missing near the Great Lakes of North America, like vanished out of thin air. All of its cargo and its 3 crew members were gone, and people presumed the train derailed and crashed near Mink Harbour in Ontario. People then thought, you know what, the train probably fell into Lake Superior, but they didn't have the manpower to look for it. Locals in the area reported ghost sightings around the tracks and around the harbour. They say they see confused looking men who are staring out over the lake. Fast forward 106 years and the train wreckage was found at the bottom of the lake. The pictures of the wreck are truly incredible. Apparently the train is the only sunken locomotive in the Great Lakes region. Recovery experts say that the train cannot be raised as it is too damaged and would likely disintegrate. Sadly, divers could not locate the bodies of the 3 men who died in the crash. Without raising the train, the souls of the 3 lost crew members may be trapped in the lake forever. Coming into number 6, we have the Silver Train of Stockholm. The Silver Pylon, or the Silver Arrow of Stockholm, has been the subject of Swedish urban legends for decades. In Stockholm, the subway trains are blue, they used to be green. One train, however, is silver. The story dates back to 1965, when people started spotting the silver train every now and then. Sightings were so rare that the train became the stuff of legends. There are a whole bunch of legends surrounding this train, all of them pretty spooky. Many people say that the train has only ever been spotted in abandoned tunnels by construction workers and subway workers. Some say that the train goes around picking up passengers that either showed up weeks later dazed and confused, or never showed up again at all. Some people say that they have only seen the train after midnight going high speed through stations. Eyewitnesses describe the carriages as empty save for a few figures. Are they ghosts? The stories of the Silver Pylon were at their pinnacle in the 1980s, but a lot of people in the city still talk about the legendary Silver Train. The Silver Pylon urban legend sometimes feeds into stories about Keimline, a metro station on the Stockholm Metro Line 11. Now this gets a whole urban legend point of its very own, and it is coming into number 5. There are are a lot of stories about Kime Line. One says it is haunted by the silver pylon, but others suspected a wider ghost conspiracy. Kime Line is an abandoned metro station, a ghost station if you will. A lot of people are baffled by its existence and the reason why, even after it was built, transport authorities never opened the building for service. It is said that only the dead get off at Kime Line. Coming into number 4, we have the St. Louis Light. The St. Louis urban legend refers to mysterious lights moving up and down an abandoned old rail line in Saskatchewan, Canada. It is said the lights vary in colour and brightness and can still be seen to this day. Now I think that good old Daniel the Spaniel Lurkington Burkington put this one in his Canadian Urban Legends video. Now, a lot of people were all about it, so I'm putting it in this video too. A lot of people say the lights are of a ghost train passing through the night. Others say that the light comes from a lamp held by the ghost of a drunken headless brakeman who was decapitated by a train passing at speed. Grimy. He now spends eternity wandering up and down the track looking for his lost head. Now Canada loves the unsolved mystery so much, in 2014, Canada Post even issued a special stamp depicting the St. Louis ghost train. Some people thought the mystery was solved in 2009 when 2 local high school students duplicated the lights using diffraction, leading them to conclude that the lights came from distant vehicles. That is all well and good, but the lights have been noted long before cars sprang up in the area. Coming into number 3, we have the Whitechapel corpse train. According to London Underground folklore, in the early days of the tube, so we're talking early 1900s, there used to be a special train that transported corpses from the Royal London Hospital in Whitechapel to morgues in the city. Why would they have their own train? Well, not only would it be quicker, but it also spared Victorian-era Londoners exposure to sickness and disease. A train flying by with dead bodies. Creepy. Whitechapel itself as an area is creepy enough, what with it being the old stomping ground of Jack the Ripper. Many people say that the Whitechapel tube station is haunted, and it could be a number of possible ghosts given the area's history. Adding substance to the legend of the corpse train, a lot of people swear that there is a bricked up tunnel at Whitechapel, saying it's the old entrance to the corpse train route. There is actually an abandoned station nearby called St Mary's on Whitechapel Road, so perhaps this has something to do with the legend. Coming in at number 2, we have the crying victims at King's Cross. In 1987, there was a horrifying fire at London's King's Cross St Pancras station. On November the 18th, a major fire broke out on the wooden Piccadilly line escalator. The flames swept upwards and got so hot that the ticket office floor even melted and collapsed. The cause of the fire was a match dropped down the side of the escalator. It ignited the grease underneath. 31 people died and 100 people were injured. The old wooden escalator was due to be replaced with a metal one, but sadly for those that lost their life, it hadn't yet happened. Now, rumours of souls left trapped in the station that night have been rife. In 1998, a man spotted a distressed woman crying into her hands. When he asked if she was okay, he passed straight through her. This is just one of many sightings of the crying girl, with some saying that they've seen a woman with long brown hair screaming with her arms in the air. When they go to assist her, she simply isn't there. This could be the same ghost, or maybe even an entirely different one. Who knows how many of the 31 victims could still haunt the station. Other than that, people have reported smelling smoke in the area of the building the fire broke out. Clearly, the emotional trauma of that evening has left some kind of paranormal impact on the place. Finally, coming into number 1, we have the presidential ghost train of Abraham Lincoln. When Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, his body went on display on a funeral train that passed through the northern states of the USA on one final journey. This journey was to end in his home in Springfield, Illinois. The train left Washington, D.C. on April the 21st, 1865 and travelled for days, reaching Columbus on April 29th. People lined the tracks to watch his train pass. Now, legend has it, on late April evenings, a spectral train can be seen along the same path of the funeral train too. Some say they see a phantom train, some say they hear a whistle, and others swear they smell a puff of smoke. People from the towns that the train passed by make a big deal out of trying to spot the phantom train every year. Coming in at number 10, we have the express train to hell. This story is an urban legend from Newark Central Station in New Jersey. It seems that a homeless man had been hanging around the station for a number of days, and the station master had kept trying to move him on. One night he started screaming, "It's coming for me, it's coming for me." This is when the station master reluctantly told the man that he was going to call the police. He said in all seriousness, "The express train for hell is coming for my soul, you've got to help me." He confessed to the station master that he had killed a man who had cheated him. Now the station master told him to calm down, but sure enough, at midnight, the sound of a steam engine came rolling into the station. It also came with that telltale wind that comes along with an approaching train. He held the homeless man back as he looked like he was about to jump in front of the invisible train. Both of the men then stumbled backwards to the ground. The station master lost his grip of the man. When he turned to see if he was okay, the homeless man was nowhere to be seen. Did the express train from hell pick up its passenger? From New Jersey to nearby New York, we have the ghost trains of Hellgate Bridge at number 9. There is a genuine bridge in New York called Hellgate Bridge, which is disconcerting. Hellgate crosses the East River, connecting Queens to Randall's Island. That isn't all the bridge connects, though. It may well join New York to the fiery pits of hell. According to local law, the bridge is haunted by an old train whose passengers are the city's damned. Those who find themselves on the bridge at night report seeing strange lights thundering towards them before they disappear. Others report seeing an old battered train floating over the river. The legend says that the carriages are filled with people who have lost their lives in the water. Some of these may be murder victims, people who have fallen short of the mafia, suicide jumpers, and even historic Dutch explorers. They all sit together on one really weird ride to hell. Coming into number 8, we have Haunted Connolly Station in Ireland. Connolly Station is a busy train hub in the centre of Dublin, and it connects rail routes across the country. In 2011, ghost hunters visited the station after a rise in reports of strange goings-on in the building and around the platform. This station is old, dating back to 1844, which means it's likely to have seen a lot of action. The station is also near the North Strand, which was heavily bombed during World War II. It's thought that some of the poltergeist activity is from lost souls who were killed in the bombardment. Leading paranormalist Tim Kelly was keen to be granted permission to investigate the station. It's actually very hard to obtain permission, seeing as it's always so busy. He said, "Sometimes the human ear can't pick up the voices, and they are only audible once recorded on audio recorders and reviewed." He also quoted Ghostbusters and claimed that he ain't afraid of no ghost. And all of a sudden we're back in the USA as we talk about the dead man of the New York subway at number 7. This legend has been circling the New York subway for about as long as the subway has been running. It's also done the rounds on the Paris Metro, the London Tube, the Toronto TTC, basically all cities with an underground train network. This legend goes that a person is sitting on the train minding their own business. They soon look up to realize that the person across from them is staring at them with like a creepy kind of vacant blank face. They notice 2 other people sitting next to the starer, seemingly unaware of the creep that they're sandwiching. A man then comes up and whispers to the train rider, saying they ought to get off at the next station. They do it, and then the man follows them and says something along the lines of, "Thank God, I didn't mean to scare you, but I'm a doctor. You had to get off that train because the man staring at you was dead, and the 2 people aside of him were propping him up." There are so many variants on this story, some including one person riding round and round and round on a loop until somebody finally realizes that they're dead. This story appeared in print in 1933 in a newspaper about Manhattan folktales. This leads us to believe that this is just simply one of those urban legends. Coming into number 6, we have the legend of Casey Jones. Johnny Cash sings the true story of the legendary Casey Jones, a gallant railroad engineer working in Cannonball, USA in the late 1800s. Jones had a rep for always running his trains on time without fault, even if it meant running trains at very high speeds. He began to be known for his efficiency and the whistle he would make whilst driving the trains through towns. One day in April 1900, Jones was working a double shift and was tasked with bringing a late train from Memphis into Chicago on time. The train was an hour and a half behind schedule, and Jones sent the train flying at 100 miles per hour. Sadly, as he pulled through Vaughan, Mississippi, he realized there was a train parked on the tracks ahead. Now, because of how fast he was going, he simply could not stop in time. He pumped the brakes and advised some of the passengers to jump. He sounded the train's whistle as a warning. The collision was awful, but all of the passengers survived. The only person who died was Casey, who was struck in the throat. He had one hand on his whistle and the other on his brake. Some people in the area still claim they hear the whistle on hot summer afternoons. Coming in at number 5, we have the baby train. This is a classic urban legend. Why is it scary? Because babies are actually, kind of terrifying. Babies as a result of train scheduling, even worse. This urban legend has been told across a number of cities, and one of the earliest mentions was in Chicago. In 1939, a passage in a Christoph Morley's novel Kitty Foyle read, "The first thing you hear mornings in Manitou is the early Q train to Chicago. It's too early to get up and too late to go to sleep again. They have a legend out there that the morning yells of that rattler do a good deal to keep up the birth rate." Now, this legend was also appropriated to Canberra in Australia when the government supposedly noticed that a birth rate was 3 times higher than the rest of Australia. When a government statistician went to investigate, he found the place swarming with kids. Once again, terrifying. He realised the town was on a main rail line used by the Kygel mail train every morning at 4:30 a.m. Now, apparently this wake-up call got people frisky. If all it takes is a train horn to get pregnant, I'm terrified. Also, that really is one horn that will haunt you forever. This story is coming from New Zealand. Yeah, mate. At number 4, we have the ghost of Glen Eden Railway Station. Situated in Auckland, the Glen Eden Station has a rather morbid history. The station in Waitakere City was built in order to transport bodies to a nearby cemetery. That isn't all either. On January the 11th, 1924, Alex McFarland, a tablet porter at the station, lost his balance and slipped between the platform and an oncoming train, severing both his legs. He later died from his injuries. Now, since the station was refurbished, a cafe has been built on the site. It seems that the ghost of McFarland is partial to a visit. Cafe staff have reported seeing a man with a grey beard and a trench coat walking up and down the platform. Some say they see a man peering at them through a window. Other staff members have reported a man in a top hat entering the cafe and asking for a train timetable before disappearing. Is this the same gentleman, or are they 2 separate ghosts? Are there more ghosts? I wouldn't be surprised given the station's history. Do you want to know what happens after the last train leaves Sydney's Macquarie Fields station? Find out at number 3. I read an article online that called Macquarie Fields a small station with a very big secret. Now, according to local reports, after the last train departs, crying and wailing can be heard whistling down the station platform. Those who've been on the platform after the last train have reported seeing a teenage girl shrieking, crying, and even sitting on the tracks. Apparently, this ghostly apparition is fond of staring into people's eyes as they walk by her. Some say the ghost is of a girl who missed the last train home and was murdered as she tried to make her own way home. Others say that she was a teen who fell on the tracks, whereas others say that she was a regretful suicide victim. Coming in at number 2, we have the ghost of William Therese. Actor William Therese was stabbed to death outside of London's Adelphi Theatre on December the 16th, 1897. Now, he was stabbed by a fellow thespian, Richard Archer Prince. It seemed that Therese had the man fired from a previous production due to his instability, which, considering he later turned out to murder him, is, a fair shout. Prince was an alcoholic and declared insane, which meant that he got off pretty lightly. Perhaps this unresolved business is why the ghost of Therese is said to haunt the Adelphi Theatre and the nearby Covent Garden tube station. Therese's ghost has been reported at Covent Garden station since 1955, so over 57 years after his death. Jack Hayden, a ticket taker at the station, was locking up when he encountered an elegantly dressed man wearing gloves and holding a cane. When Hayden asked the man how he was and how he was still in the station, he simply disappeared. When he reported the incident, his description of the man matched the late actor. Many other station staff have also reported seeing him after hours. Now, it seems that the tube station is near the site of Therese's favourite bakeries. All ghosts are by nature pretty scary, but I have to say the ghost of actor William Therese isn't the worst to encounter. He just wanted a good old piece of bread or a cake. Cake. Finally, coming in at number 1, we have the very popular urban legend about the time-traveling train of Zanetti. This is a popular urban legend surrounding the alleged disappearance of a train in Italy in 1911. The story goes that an Italian rail company, Zanetti, had set up a trip to advertise a new train route. They invited 100 high-flying members of society to board this new train on a show route. The train, manned by 6 crew, left Rome and was travelling towards Lombard. out. As the train approached a mountain tunnel, a few of the passengers had a very bad feeling. Now, 2 of those passengers were so overcome with terror that they jumped from the moving train. The rest glided into a tunnel, which then trembled and closed up behind them. It literally seemed as if the mountain swallowed the train, which in turn was never found. The 2 people that jumped from the train were injured, but survived and relayed their experiences to locals after they regained their health in hospital. The other 104 people on board were nowhere to be found. Now, there were some sketchy reports of 100 or so people turning up in Mexico speaking Italian and seeming very lost and confused.
Starting us off with number 10 are the haunted tracks. Now, this one's an urban legend originating from San Antonio, Texas. Back in the 1940s, there was a school bus full of children going towards an intersection when it stalled on the tracks. The bus driver was rushing trying to get the children off the bus, but he wasn't quick enough, and a speeding train ended up hurtling into the bus, killing the bus driver and 10 of the children. After the accident, it's said that if any car stops near the tracks, many unseen hands will push it across the tracks to safety. And obviously, a lot of people have speculated it's the hands of the children who died in the accident pushing these cars to safety to try and save them from the fate that they themselves suffered. People have even covered their bumpers with flour or baby powder and have seen their fingerprints on the car itself. However, as nice as the story is, there is no official record of the accident ever taking place, yet locals claim it did definitely happen. Anyone from San Antonio confirm or deny? Let me know. Coming in at number 9 is the little girl. Now, this story takes place in North Road railway station located in southern Durham in England. The station opened its doors in 1842 and its far platform is currently home to a third-class carriage that was built in 1865. Inside this carriage, many have seen a young girl dressed in Victorian clothes, and she's usually in the far right compartment at the back of the carriage. I feel like that's too specific for it to be a lie, you know what I mean? Staff at the station have frequently heard noises coming from the carriage, like sounds of a child laughing and singing, but every time they've checked inside, it's been empty. In 2008, a staff member even reported he had heard knocking from inside the carriage. He went inside to check and found it empty, but as soon as he went to the waiting room, the banging and knocking sound started up again. At number 8, we have the floating train. Now, this story comes from Jana Bommersbach, who retells a Canadian folk legend from Alberta. A man named S.E. Slosh said him and his friend Bob Twohy were train firemen who in 1908 saw the light of a train approaching them, and since there was only one track, they both thought they were done for. At the last second, the train veered right, and as they watched it pass, it wasn't even on the tracks. It was floating, and all the passengers on the train were just staring at them through the windows. After seeing this, it scared Bob enough for him to actually stop working for like a few months. Schlosser continued and started working with a man named Jay Nicholson, and both witnessed the same thing happening again and again with the same staring passengers. A few months later, Schlosser heard an accident had taken place. A head-on collision had happened in the exact place he had seen the ghost train. 7 people were killed, 1 being Bob and the other being Nicholson. The 2 trains involved were the Lethbridge locomotive, and the other was this apparent ghost train which they thought wasn't even real. So how did the accident even really happen? Filling our number 7 slot is the St. Louis Light, the St. Louis Ghost Train, or the St. Louis Ghost Light, whichever of the 3 names you fancy using. Now, this case is located in St. Louis, Saskatchewan, and has even been featured on the TV show Unsolved Mysteries, and it basically is a paranormal phenomenon of a strange light moving back and forth on a very old abandoned railway line at night. The light dims and brightens up, and it even changes color. The line doesn't even have its tracks anymore, but the lights are still there. People believe it's a ghost train or the ghost of an old drunk brakeman who lost his head on the tracks and now spends his days wandering up and down the line with a lantern looking for his head. However, 2 senior students from Larange actually won their science fair by investigating the tale and pointed to the diffraction of the lights from different cars as the reason behind the lights. That's great if it's true, but people reported seeing the lights before cars were even invented, so things just don't completely add up. Do you guys have any theories? Let me know in the comments below. Now at number 6 is Leamington Spa Station. Now this station was built in the 1880s and is located in the town of Royal Leamington Spa in England, which is a spa town if you didn't guess that from the name. This station has been plagued with ghost stories for decades. A worker was staying late to work in the top office building and witnessed lights switching on and off by themselves, paperwork being flung about, and even doors slamming by themselves. There have been so many incidents that Chiltern Railways has actually hired a supernatural liaison officer back in 2014 in order to patrol the station and wait for ghosts. Nick Reese, the officer, claims hearing footsteps when no one is there is a daily occurrence and that most of the ghosts are friendly and have good energy. I mean, at least there's positive vibes. His job is to check the ghosts' tickets because apparently they've been using their abilities to just go through the gates. And I mean, if I was a ghost, I'd probably do the same. You may be a ghost, but you still have to pay the train fee, people. Reese also makes sure the ghosts don't eat other people's sandwiches and that they don't direct people to the wrong train. Coming at number 5 is the Silver Arrow. That sounds like the next Marvel or DC superhero, doesn't it? But anyway, the Silver Arrow is actually the nickname of a metro train in Stockholm which has a bunch of urban legends surrounding it and the apparent ghosts aboard it. The reason people are so freaked out by it is because almost all the metro trains in Stockholm are green, so most people aren't even aware of this one, which is silver. Some people claim that they can see it passing stations at an unnatural speed around midnight, and others say it's only ever been seen in deserted tunnels by metro workers. The most common belief is that if someone gets picked up by the arrow, they either get off months or years later, or they straight up just disappear altogether. The train is empty on the inside or filled with its ghostly passengers, whichever one you want to believe more. The latter is more fun, I guess. At number 4 is the Hellhound. Opened back in May of 1980, Moulsecoomb railway station located in East Sussex is the subject of many ghost stories. Most travellers that come through the station report hearing a dog growling and panting when there's clearly no animal around. The stories have been around for decades and have even made it into a book called Brighton Ghosts and Hove Hauntings. Some people have even reported to have been stalked by the horrific ghost dog at night when they've been alone, and he's said to have red glowing eyes. Honestly, if I saw that sight at a deserted train station, I would forget the train and walk the hell to my destination, even if it was miles away. I'm guessing maybe this dog was run over on the tracks, or maybe its owner wasn't paying attention and let it walk along the tracks, and now it's taking its revenge on the travellers that come. Maybe. Filling our number 3 slot is Lincoln's Phantom Train. Now during the spring of every year, it's said that a phantom train travels through 7 states and 440 communities from Washington DC to Springfield, Illinois. After Abraham Lincoln was assassinated on the 14th of April 1865, his funeral train was planned by the Secretary of War at the time, Edwin M. Stanton. The train left Washington on the 21st of April and arrived in Springfield on the 3rd of May. Now the train itself was called the Lincoln Special and consisted of 9 cars, with the 8th one being the funeral car. The train is said to still run its route every year during the same dates and times as the original journey. Literally hundreds of people have reported seeing a ghost train going through the countryside. Apparently, when the train is passing through, watch and clock shops nearby stop running and the air on the tracks becomes ice cold, whereas the area right next to the tracks remains the same temperature. Some say they've heard mournful music as it passes, some say it's silent, some say they can hear a whistle and see black smoke or just see a headlight at night. Some people have even reported seeing skeletons in blue standing at his casket. People in the states the train passes still hold watches for the train and try to capture it on film. People in any of these states, have you heard of the Lincoln Ghost Train? Have you seen it? Let me know. Send me pictures of it. I need to see this. Now at number 2 is the Railway Murderer. Already from the name you know this is going to be a juicy story. Or am I just clickbaiting you? You decide. This legend is about the Balcombe railway station located in West Sussex. While this is the second ghost station in Sussex, I feel like they need to do an evaluation of their train stations. Honestly, something is wrong. But anyway, the station started operating in July of 1841 and it runs between Balcombe and 3 Bridges. Dating back to the year 1881, there was an infamous railway murderer named Percy Lefroy Mapleton. What a fancy name, first off. But he was known for killing 64-year-old Isaac Frederick Gold. Again, a very fancy name. Percy killed Isaac when the latter was in the first-class smoking compartment in the third carriage. Percy left Isaac's body at Balcombe Station, so it's said that he haunts the station. On top of that, 3 World War I soldiers were also killed at the station by a moving train whilst they were sheltering themselves from a bombing raid. It's said during World War II the ghosts of the soldiers have been seen tormenting other soldiers who were hiding there for the same reason they were. I mean, at least they're poking fun at it. And finally, at number 1 is the Ghost Congregation. Don't get excited, this story isn't about a train or station full of a congregation of ghosts, but it does include multiple ghosts in the same place. Carlisle Railway Station is located in Cumbria, England, and it first started services in 1847 and is said to be haunted by many ghosts who have unfinished business. Many have seen a headless man patrolling platform 8, a little boy who was killed on his bike with his dog, and a murderous butcher and the woman he murdered. In the undercroft of the station, a skeptic went with a ghost medium to see if the stories were actually true. The medium told the butcher to give them a sign if he was there, and the closed doors immediately swung open. The people with them explored every haunted room in that station, and many claimed they were being touched by invisible hands either on their head or their legs. There's just too many ghosts in the station all grouped together for my liking.